Nintendo shows more positive signs of growth. So as everybody, including Hollywood and modern gaming, continue to send workers and continue to send people, there is one company that has proven resilient, and that's Nintendo. I think gaming developers in Hollywood need to learn from Nintendo. Obviously, I'm not saying to make every thing appeal towards all audiences. I think this be stuff for adults and kids and everybody. But Nintendo has added 407 new employees to Nintendo of America and Japan. Actually, of Nintendo of Global. The company currently has 7,724 employees in the books globally, which means they increased around 400 employees from last fiscal year. During a time when other developers are laying off, Nintendo has grown substantially. It seems like Microsoft, Sony, and other companies, including Disney, continue to send employees. Like, people saying that's only Microsoft that's struggling. It's only Microsoft, but it's Sony too. Sony, despite having the fastest selling console of all time, had to even send employees themselves. Okay? It just seems that I think the PS5 honeymoon period is over and it's selling, people finally starting to realize that the PS5 isn't as good as a console as they have no games for the PS5 worth playing. Okay? Meanwhile, Nintendo, you can always know Nintendo is going to have good games on their console, okay? With the success of games like Thousand Year Door and Pete's Showtime and Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which they are not really major like $10 million seller plus games, but Paper Mario Thousand Year Door probably sell 3 to 5 million copies. Again, pretty good for the end of the life cycle of a console. Mario vs. Luigi usually sells 1 to 2 million copies, and Pete's Showtime sold pretty well despite, being hated. It's funny all of the hate for Thousand Year Door has basically disappeared now, but it's so funny that Nintendo continues to do well. It seems that Sony and Microsoft need to learn a lot from Nintendo, okay? Which one, actually release games, and two, actually release good games, okay? That are worth buying. There's no need to end stuff like exclusivity and stuff if you can make good games that are worth buying instead of something like Starfield that no one liked, or releasing something like Spider-Man 2, whereas yet the game sold 11 million copies, but the game is drying up pretty quickly for a massive first-party game as well. Because the game sold 11 million copies. It is pretty funny that they always talk about that there was this massive backlash against Spider-Man 2, but the game sold extremely well. But it seems with Nintendo continues to win. Nintendo continues to win again, despite a gaming industry dying. It really shows you that most people don't like live service games and microtransactions and bugs in glitchy games. Or is it something that Nintendo never does? They do DLC now, but hopefully Nintendo never goes down the path of actual greed and shoves microtransactions down people's throats. They did try making mobile games, but then they realized that, that's not a good thing. And it's for the better, because Nintendo, they're all about making people happy, making people satisfied with whatever games they released. And I think they really changed their mindset about gaming after the failure of 3DS and Wii U. Try to reach the most amount of people possible with your games, which is what Nintendo does. And I don't think Nintendo games really cost much to make either compared to these massive AAA games. Okay, I don't think Nintendo games really cost too much either. So yeah, I think Xbox and Sony really need to learn the lessons from Nintendo. They really need to learn the lessons. And yes, this is pretty funny because Nintendo, a decade ago, was struggling with the Wii U and 3DS. Nintendo had an identity crisis, but it seems that Nintendo is now on top and has won against Sony and Xbox, without even having good graphics, Again, they always about that Nintendo needs stuff like all these massive third-party games, but all these massive third-party games are more microtransaction swap or buggy and glitchy games that Nintendo doesn't need. Nintendo just needs games that people actually want to buy. And that's what Nintendo does. They give people games people actually want to buy. The Switch actually had decent third-party support, at least from Japan, and indie games for its whole life cycle. So if you want to have non-Nintendo offerings, there are tons of Japanese and indie games out there you can buy as well. That'll definitely worth your time if you don't want to buy a Nintendo game. But again, you buy Nintendo games for Nintendo games for Nintendo consoles. That's the whole reason why you buy Nintendo consoles. But of course, if you get bored of Nintendo games, there are tons of indie options and other Japanese games they can play if you get bored of playing, Mario or Zelda, or you can play those games. There's tons of games on the Switch that you can basically buy. Switch is not just Nintendo anymore, like how it was at the Wii U. And of course, the Wii U ads were obviously awful as well. But that's it about this video here. And what do you think about Nintendo doing very well despite the failures of modern gaming? Goodbye.